Hello, 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 everyone. Mike Arnold here, co-founder, Pat Trading Partners, along with Bob Iacino, making a slight little adjustment. There we go. How is everyone doing? Happy Wednesday, everyone. So, quiet economic release day. We got Meta after the close. Then we really light up for the end of the week. So let's see. Weak dollar. Nasdaq still on the weak side after Microsoft. And what was the other one? Boy, I just blanked out. What am I thinking? Microsoft and Alphabet. That's right. Jeez. Boy, I need more coffee this morning. All right, let's see who's here. Morning, Jacob. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, PMG. I hope 40K down on a put is appropriate for your account size. Remember, risk management is key. Risk management is key. And sticking within your risk parameters. Okay? Just because you saw a couple bad earnings report doesn't mean this market has to fall out of bed. Yes, daily cycles at the top. We are due for a pullback out of overbought. That doesn't mean it has to take out the lows. Lots of price action to chew through before that happens. So, structure your trade appropriately and use appropriate risk management. That is key. Good afternoon, Sashi. Williams confused now. Bullish or bearish? What time frame? Again, everything's on a time frame. It's not just one or the other. I am long-term bearish. Very short-term watching for this pullback. I guess you could call that very short-term. Like micro short-term choppy to bearish. And then watching for the next turn up before the bigger rollover. So, again, it's all time frames. Good morning, options 22. See, George is has gone full in on the bullish side. Other people are full in on the bearish side. I'm analyzing both sides and looking for opportunities. You know, everybody knows I'm long-term bearish. Short term, we still have bullish patterns to complete. Good morning, Anissa. Happy Wednesday, Christoph. Top of the morning. Top of the morning dew. Very good. Getting that morning dew in there. Rams of fall. Good morning, Connor. Good morning, Martinez. Q's held the 62.5 level at 277.42. Positive sign. VIX is negative. We'll go over all that in a second. Hey, Chris Plummer. I'm just trying to give people common advice. I really don't. And remember, if you're putting 40K, you better have a big account size, because putting that kind of money into, and I don't know your account size, but putting that in one trade, if it's a big account, that could be fully appropriate. If it's only a 100K account, that is not appropriate for my book. We focus on proper risk management, because the people who stay around the longest are the people who generally make the money. Can we have a look at US oil? Well, let me get through crude first, and then we can peek at USO. Hey, Christoph. All right. We had the mortgage stuff out earlier. Still contraction, no surprise. Mortgage rates still high. Blah, 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 blah. Nothing there. What else do we have here? What else do we have? Trade goods and everything. Wholesale inventories. Don't think that number's right. If wholesale inventories went up 999%, there is something going on. So we'll ignore that one. Coming out after you open no home sales, everybody's expecting this to be down pretty substantially. And this is September figures after we had really skyrocketing Mortgage rates, I don't think that's going to shock the market at all. We have the crude numbers coming out at 9:30 Central, and that is it. It's a quiet day from the economic perspective. Microsoft still getting hammered pre-market. Google getting hammered pre-market. Chips selling off. The old chippers, software's also selling off. So a lot of tech sell off. Meta selling off. Remember, confirmed, but no trigger double. No trigger double yesterday, selling off, going into their earnings after the close, and will not be surprised to see a poor earnings report for Meta. But let's just see how much that. And then we got Amazon tomorrow and Apple tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see how they react, especially into the open. Healthcare is holding up pretty decently. We also had Bristol Myers Squibb reporting earlier. Actually reported halfway decent numbers and down. Things even getting Boeing reported, Waste Management reported. So a number of things came out there. You can see this morning the sectors, communications, technology, consumer, cyclical, already down pretty much. Energy, basic materials holding up better. We still have 75 basis points. Again, the one I'm watching is the December, whether it's the 50 or 75 really, because next Wednesday, so a week from today, we finally get the November hike out of the way. And then no cut in December. Still negative gamma. Remember, we have a pretty strong wall at 3,800. Pretty strong wall at 3,800. Weakened a bit. These numbers change because there are so many short-term options being played now. It is insane. Fear and greed still up to the top end of neutral. Again, let's take a look. I talked about, I did not look at Kraft Heinz. I got a peek at that after the open. But Boeing was a miss, although cash flows were a beat. Bristol Myers was a beat, but trading back. Waste Management was pulling back there also. After, I already talked about Meta. Going to be interesting. GMB going to look at Ford. Teladoc. I forgot to look at Kathy's holdings. How much Teladoc does she have left? That'll always be interesting. So that's where we sit. Let's see who else. Rams of Fall. Thank you so much for the super chat and supporting the channel. Everybody, big shout out to Rams of Fall. Big shout out to Dave there. Daily insights are greatly appreciated. Well, thank you. That makes it worthwhile to show up here and help everybody. Hey, do you think we could take a look at the SPY? We will do it in 1 second. Thinking about Microsoft calls at the open. Let me just get through some of this. So, I told you I was watching the 4-hour rotation zone. 4-hour rotation zone in the S&P. If we start breaking down at the open, especially below some of the lows from yesterday's closing prints, you can see right here, you have a pretty decent support base down about 38.14. And then we have between 3,800 and 3,814, we have a fair amount of support. Not just from the pre-launch of yesterday, the pre-breakout of yesterday, but also back from October 22nd and rising rotation zone. Rotation zone helps me key in on key areas to focus on. We are, just to reiterate, at cycle tops. We did hit overbought yesterday, so not surprised to see a pullback, even separate from earnings. Yes, earnings are the catalyst with Microsoft and Alphabet's miss. We are down already from yesterday's highs. Even a pullback to the daily rotation zone over the next couple days tackles the breakout of the not perfectly formed inverse head and shoulders and the daily rotation zone. Why am I focusing on this? Because I don't like to overreact. Well, I don't like to overreact, period, but we don't have strong topping patterns yet. Cycles get back to the bottom. Remember, weekly still has some ways to run. Yes, we are in the weekly rotation zone. So we can watch for a weekly rollover, but the odds that we'll just tank and take out the lows going through all this key support is very slow, very low, especially with some bullish patterns triggered. So what I'm watching for on the macro perspective is the pullback and then the secondary reaction. Remember, the secondary reaction after the primary pullback will tell us a lot of the underlying strength and weakness, especially once we get this earnings week out of the way. That's why I need some good patterns. Will not be surprised at the pullback. We break below the 4-hour rotation zone. Then I'm focusing closer to the neckline I just talked about and that daily rotation zone and the 3750, 3755 area. There's a fair amount of support down here. On the open for the little short-term traders, here's what I'm keying off of. Trying to cater to a bunch of different people. We filled the gap already in the S&P. So that was already taken out. That was the little overnight play for the gap magnet fill. Now, above these little two tops, not double top, two tops here, we have the 62.5. But above the 62.5, which is right by this little resistance shelf and this prior support shelf going into the sell-off after the cash close yesterday, that's where I'm start watching this 38.55. To the downside, 38.30, and then we get into 38.24. We are into a clear path move, but you're slamming into support about 38.18. Below 38.18, I will watch then. I will get the short-term bearish to this 3,800. But there's a lot of potential stopping points unless we have a bloodbath in the selling momentum with the tick. The VIX is not confirming yet a bloodbath market. So that's short and long term. NASDAQ. Then I'll get to some other stuff. I know we got lots of spies and Qs traders. NASDAQ, just want to outline this because I think even if you're trading the spies or Qs, you should learn to watch the futures. Your trading will improve. We did not fill the gap in the NASDAQ futures. So and look at, that's right around the 50%, not exactly, it's a few ticks within that range, but that's the 50% magnet above. So on a breakout of roughly about 11,550, 11,585 with the potential gap fill, and then 11,622. And up in here, I would watch for another rollover play unless we get above this 11,622. The breakdown, 11,475 area. Then I'll be watching the retest of the overnight lows, and we have still a lot of chop. There's not a clear path move in here. We have key prior resistance becoming support all through this area, even back from Tuesday, the October 18th. From last Tuesday, not yesterday, but from the prior Tuesday, reconfirmed, tried to break below on Monday and snap back. So we have a lot of volume support area. Doesn't mean that if you get strong momentum to the downside, this can't be taken out. However, there's a lot to lean against. Won't start tipping more bearish until 11,322. Same things with the cycles at the top. Hitting overbought. Just pull this off so we can see more clearly. First reaction after the 50. The sloppy inverse head and shoulders still favors after a pullback some stronger things. Now, on a bigger pullback, my key area is about 11.2. 11.2 is one of the key areas should it turn into a bigger selling. Why? That's Monday's low on that little spike low. We have some significance there. We have the convergence with the walk-away trend line from an inverse head and shoulders. And just for the bigger perspective, the key area, and this is where I really love this, if you put up your harmonics, and I didn't do it on the S&P, but if you start looking at this, the 37.5 with the 4-hour rotation zone, or the 25 with the 4-hour rotation zone. You have some other key areas based off here with the daily. like this key support ledge coming in right around at the 50, then the 62.5 with the Friday's spike low. That's where I'll start tipping more, much more so bearish. Until that, we got a lot of support to show through, even with cycles at the top. All right, let me get to the spiders and the Qs. Just to get that out of the way. First thing naturally is looking for any bullish play would be for the gap and the gap harmonics. So that's the key thing, are the gap harmonics based off where we open today. We're at 381.30.83. Support area, I'm bumping this up just a bit to about 379, 378.90, 379. And then we're looking at 376 as major key support. Major key support coming in at 376. Below that is 374. Just slightly in front of 374 with the rising rotation zone. That's where we sit right there. Do not ignore this 378.90, 379 area with the rising 1 hour rotation zone right in here. And this little pause area. That's going to be key. And then just below that, we have all the highs back from, again, Tuesday the 4th, Wednesday the 5th, right in here. There's a lot to chew through. So that's going to be key. I don't know if we'd be able to take out yesterday's high, but above there, the next major target is still, next major target on the spiders, still got a pretty key breakdown zone right here. So support, retested resistance with an emotional candle. Above, so we have a key resistance zone, 388 to 390 is a major target area. The Qs, watching more so on the 276.74 for major support. You still have a little gap fill down here. Technically, which is just below right now, so that gap will be filled by a gap, and that's now resistance 279.10. And then below that, next key is this 276.70, and then major is coming in at 274. Again, the other thing for anything bullish, I'm using the bullish harmonics. That's going to be key. The gap fill harmonics, not the bullish harmonics. That's going to be key for me. But on any rally, even without using those harmonics, I'm looking at 282 as resistance. Peeking in at the Dow. The Dow, holding up the best. We'll be focused. If there is any rally strength, focusing on the Dow first. 31.903 is resistance, then 31.975 area. On a pullback, if we start breaking below 31.735, I'm targeting roughly about 31.607 to 31.625. Then below there, we could start to see the bigger acceleration back to about 31.375. Russell holding up. Russell's actually positive on the day. We yesterday triggered. We had this confirm back then yesterday. Triggered the double bottom. So next major target on the Russell's 1850. I'm not ignoring this up against the harmonic already. Remember, those were the harmonics that were already projected. The reverse harmonics stalling out there, but above there, and this is a pretty key level. But we break through there. It's a pretty quick run for me to 1850. Let's get to the VIX. The VIX, I'll be watching to see if on the daily this triggers the double. Right now, not much action in the VIX. It's confirmed. Right, bearish. We do have a clear path. What am I paying attention to? Roughly 29 as key major resistance. So a 29 would just be an orderly decline. You start spiking above 29, I'd be watching for more acceleration to the downside. Right now, VIX is very quiet. Dollar index. Why am I touching on the dollar index? Because this is one of the rare times, doesn't happen that often, that the NASDAQ's down and the dollar index is down. The dollar index confirming this double top. It has to be triggered on the weekly, not on the daily. And I already covered this yesterday against the daily rotation zone. But I'm watching. Actually, there's some decent buying pressure coming in here earlier. So along with switching everything into the open, we've bounced back into the 1 hour rotation zone. I'm going to watch on a rotation back down to see how it reacts by these lows already established overnight. Actually, in the early European session for a potential bottoming move there. That's what I'm focused on there. Let's see. Christoph, did a double top trigger on the VIX? I have the CFD. I'd be using the VIX on the weekly basis, so I'm watching to see if it triggers at the end of the week. Did it trigger on the daily? On the CFD, 2850, yes, technically it did 2847. It did technically trigger. We could still get that counter bounce back over the next couple days, but I'm watching to see how Friday, if it triggers on Friday, if it reconfirms the weekly trigger on Friday. I don't have the NASDAQ closing the gap. I had it closed on the ES. I didn't have it closing the gap on the NASDAQ. Remember, the gap is a close isn't to the low here. It's to the close. The official gap fill is to the closing price. So the NASDAQ did not fill the gap. Well, there's P-dubs, SQs today, TQs tomorrow. Good morning, Gary. Let me get to some things in order real quick. What else do we have? Let me peek in at the DAX, at bonds. We'll then peek back to the open. I need to start this earlier probably, but then my day gets even longer. Oh, maybe I'll do that once we start the supportive model. We have the DAX still, even with a pullback, watching overall the rotation zone and then the next push higher in the DAX. The notes, I'm targeting on a continued push up 111.12, 111.11, 111.12 to complete into the daily rotation zone. Yes, there is a mini double that would take that push off the table, and that's on a 4 hour close below 11.10.16. Real quick with crude, not much going on unless we get the close above 87.14. That's about it with that. USO, I'd just be watching for that close on crude above 87.14. USO, you're watching for the 71.50 areas for a potential break up. But remember, crude is, and then the target 72 and then 73. 72, 71.98, then 73 is very key. Your support coming in about 69.90. What else do we have here? Netflix, I mean, slight slight gap down with sympathy from the overall NASDAQ, but nothing's really changed. Nothing's really changed since I looked at it yesterday. Your key support, your key major support coming back at about 281, 282 area. You still do have a little gap fill here on any pullback that I would be focusing on, 282.57 to be exact. This is not a double top pattern. And other than that, for the bullish side, I'd be watching with today, just gap fill harmonics, and then it would be, I'd still use this old harmonic as the next target up to 93.87. Where else do we have? BTC, Bitcoin, coming up right to this. I mean, I have 24.79. I'm watching 20,500 on a closing basis. Closing basis above there. Your minor area will be about 21.3, and your major area 22.4. On a pullback, it still has been able to sustain above 25, but if you're looking for a quick pullback play, 20,150 is the quick pullback play. If you break below there, would not want to touch it short term from the bullish side yet again, because that would be a false breakout. And then your major support still back at 18.5. Other than there, still trading within this key range. Yes, PCE on Friday, and Bob will be in on Friday morning to cover PCE and back tomorrow afternoon. Let's just check the open. We're going to check it on the NASDAQ first and foremost, because we should get the selling pressure on there first. And the selling pressure definitely coming in with the NASDAQ. But remember, you're slamming into 11.4 is going to be really key. Really watch. And just even if you drop it below that, 11.4, 11.420, 11.369, that's why it's hard in this area. Let's take a look at the tick, because we can get other things other than NASDAQ holding up. The tick, slight negative on the open, but nothing much. And then the quick rebound. So I'm keying out right now is we've already established the minus 400 range as the key area that I'll be watching with the open. That's how I gauge an open. So now you got some buying pressure coming in with the S&P. Quick little buying so far in the NASDAQ. Area now I'd be focused on, if it does get through this 11.495 to 11.5, really pay attention to 11.515. 11.515. We got some decent buying pressure. Remember, and then the NASDAQ gap fill if we do get the strength. Reminder, 38.55, 50, 38.56 is what I'm focusing on with the S&P. Peeking at the Dow, just up. There we go. It's officially complete. I left it on here till it was officially complete. There you go. Double pattern complete. Dow's doubles complete. Next very key target, 142 on a closing basis is very significant. Other than that, just use short-term harmonics. Russell, I want to peek at this. 1820 is this is your key resistance area. Remember, any pullback, focus on that 4-hour rotation zone. Notes, no weakness on the open with stocks. VIX has gone to sleep. I mean, we've rolled over into the open, but still you're in this range-bound area. If we start breaking below this 28.25 with some momentum, then I'll start getting more and more bullish even in the short term. All right, with that, You are welcome. Christoph, so let's peek at Microsoft, then I am logging off. Now, see, my key thing would be the gap harmonics, but on any rally, your major resistance is 234.75. So do not ignore that if it does a partial gap fill, because 234.75 is going to be a very key area. All right? This was prior support, broken, regained here, confirmed with the break, and now is major resistance. So for anybody trying to be a hero, grabbing a long in Microsoft, 234.75, do not ignore that area. And by the way, from support, I'll be really watching this 228.40 area. 228.50, 228.40. You have a key emotional close right there. So that's really the area I'd be more focused from my perspective on a potential support pattern. Thank you, Christoph. I will chat with everybody's later. Just peeking back in at the NAS. Let's just see. He's got a lot to chew through on the support side. So just don't, you know what? Really, you've got this confirmed area. You've got a decent confirmed area on the open, 11,430. So that's really key for if you're trying to play the bearish side. That's going to be a very key little short-term print now, confirmed off the open today. Can I check BNGO real quick? Nothing's really changed since a long time ago we looked at it. It's trading up against the key resistance zone, 243 to 250. So those are your short-term targets. The next target above there is 275. Nothing else. Your key support now is coming in at 215. But nothing's changed from a long-term pattern. So there you go. All right, wrapping it up for now. I'll see everybody after the close unless something substantial happens around lunchtime. Bye for now.